I don't like the characters as people, um, but I love the story that it told. And it also helped me get heavily interested in furthering my research of different cultures around the world. And I told them, no, video games are not just a waste of time. They can tell stories and actually are a form of art. They laughed it off, and I said, okay, how about this? You sit down and you watch me play one of them, pull through the story. You don't have to do anything, just watch me play it. And I chose Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, which was my favorite game of all time. And they sat, watched me play it over a few days, and they actually told me at the time, I don't know if they meant it, but they said they actually were surprised. They enjoyed it. Then we did Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, and then played the first game, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. We couldn't play the fourth, well, at the time, actually, I don't think the fourth game had come out. Thief's End had come out. Didn't have a PlayStation 4, so couldn't play it. And then it gone to playing Call of Duty Black Ops story mode, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, all games that I still love, even if, yes, they are from a more Americanized perspective. And I'll talk about this in a different video, maybe. No, I'll talk about that in a different video. I'm not going to bring that up here. Then we did other Call of Duty games. What was another one we did? I can't recall the rest, but we did those. And those are some of my fondest memories with that parent. And then years later, I did it with the other parent as well. AWOT. Oh, yes. No. This was actually more recent years. Bioshock 1 and 2. Me and this parent, they sat through me playing campaigns, story modes of Bioshock 1 and 2. Two of my other favorite games. They told me they didn't understand any of it, but, still fun. And then I also did, and The Last of Us Part 1. We did that one as well, another one of my favorite games. The Last of Us Part 2 was fine, in my opinion. Not anything fantastic. But, anyway. Years went by. This other parent who was fired from that job gained a job working at a hotel as a desk manager. It didn't pay well at all, from what I know. It kept us slightly afloat, but without other financial aid, we would have been broke. And eventually it got to a point where, because of my other parents, because of the medical system in the United States, our medical bills, we couldn't keep up with it. Eventually the decision was made to move back to Canada. Where would we go? Well, at the time, my grandfather on my one parent's side, the one who's Canadian American, they offered one of my parents the opportunity to come take care of them in exchange for us living in their house. They'd be their primary caregiver, elderly caregiver, and we just in exchange for some amount of payment live there. That was the deal. We asked, like, can we stay here in Fargo? Is there any chance? They humored us for a bit, like, we'll go around looking at all I feel that was more so just like making it seem like he maybe had a chance to. He didn't. Another thing I should mention, whilst living in Fargo, is where I also really grew to love cityscapes, exploring cities. Against my parents' wishes and against their knowledge, I went exploring the city by myself as I got older, from like 2015 to 2017. I went beyond the boundaries they had set for me. I biked around a lot of the city. Went downtown. I went down to. I went further into North Fargo, to the borders of like Fargo, like, and because it bordered Minnesota, it bordered the neighboring town. Nope, small city. Technically, yeah, small city. Bordered the small city in Minnesota of Moorhead. Moorhead was the name of that city. The Fargo-Moorhead area is what it was called. By the Red River, because the Red River, which is one of the only... Actually, it's the only other river, other than the Nile River in Egypt, Sudan, and running from Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, and into Uganda. I know it runs through Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan. But other than it's the only other river in the world other than the Nile that flows north into Canada, and would often flood the city. But anyway, I would explore the whole area. There were parts that I didn't go to, but not because of any particular reason other than, I guess, maybe some fear of my parents finding out where I was. And, well, the last little while of living there, I had a YouTube channel. It was just my name. And I actually did, as I mentioned in the Exploring Ottawa Part 7, when I was talking about child labor laws and things of the sort outside of the Newton Strip Club. I've had 2 channels before this. Or no, I had the one channel in Fargo where I did vlogs of exploring Fargo, which I deleted the channel after a while. I did film reviews, video game reviews, just like this, sitting and talking. They were probably awful. I don't remember too much about them. I'll talk about the other channels in a sec. Anyway, I loved exploring Fargo. And anyway, eventually we had to move back to Canada. We had a going away party one day. None of the friends that I had or knew were there, only my siblings' friends, which was, well, it was fine. The party was nice to say goodbye. Because I had grown to be, at the time, I had hung out with my siblings' friends. I wasn't like close friends with them, but I was well acquainted with all of them. But I didn't get to say goodbye to anybody that I knew, other than my one friend, my best friend, that I had in the city, my American friend who I'm still in contact with, and that's when we set up like messaging internationally, using an app to message each other back and forth. Say goodbye to only them, and then we packed our stuff. And as we were packing, though, this one parent who has schizoaffective disorder went into another psychotic episode, to a point where they had to actually be institutionalized at a psychiatric ward in the Fargo Hospital. This was when we were, during the weeks leading up to us leaving. More delusional states of mind. I'm not gonna go over all of it now, but yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Eventually, it subsided, and with the help of somebody we knew, we got on another road trip with our animals that we still had. Well, our dog that we had in Canada and brought to the U.S. actually died, sadly. And we got another dog that I didn't pick them out, but I begged my parents, get that one, please. The Sheltie. My family still has that dog to this day. I miss them. As well as all my other animals. Or, well, what were our animals? We packed our things and went on a road trip, which I remember far more vividly, back up to Canada. We had actually gone on a road trip with this person once before, back to Canada, to see friends and family. Because actually, at different summer points during summers when we could afford to, we'd scrape together some amount of money, we'd be able to either fly or drive back to Canada to visit people at the family cottage, which had now in my life has become a place where I've actually lived. Never thought when I was younger that I'd actually end up living in that place. Huh. Oh, that's a bit of interesting, introspective thought. Things somewhat come full circle. Ow. I've been aspirating a lot. Throat. So we went on a road trip moving back. We went through a bit of North Dakota, through Minnesota, through the topmost part of Ohio. No, I didn't see any aliens or body snatchers there. At least that I can recall. And then we went up through Wisconsin, through Chicago, Wisconsin. Maybe we passed through Milwaukee. We went through Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota. Then we went through that topmost bit of Michigan that isn't, you know how the American state of Michigan is shaped, if you know American geography. It's very odd, the borders. I don't remember the territorial whatever. I think there was some sort of dispute between the state governments when it was being formed in the Union, why the pointed bit that is technically has more land mass attached to Wisconsin, why that's part of Michigan. We went through that part up to the city in Ontario, the small city of Sault Ste. Marie. Crossed the border there. Stayed in Sault Ste. Marie for night. I'm just remembering something actually interesting, funny. It's very funny. On one of those road trips we took, on the first road trip we'd taken with this person that we knew, we stayed at a, there's a hotel chain, franchise, a moderately large hotel chain in Canada and the United States. I don't know if they're anywhere else in North America. Called Super 8. We stayed in one. My sibling despised it. Granted, it was not very well kept. Well, I don't know what the budget of the place was, but there was what looked to be a vomit stain on the floor, peeling on the walls. I think my sibling found some snot on one of the pillows. At that same hotel, we found a milk snake. Actually, no, it wasn't a milk snake. It was a San Francisco garter snake, which I later found out. And a toad, which I disobeyed my parent at the time, and I held that friggin' toad. Because I wanted to hold that toad. And then they scolded me for holding the toad. But when we got into Sault Ste. Marie, my sibling was like, we thought we were staying at a different hotel, and then this person was like, nope, made a mistake. We're staying at the Super 8 hotel down the road. And my sibling was like, no! No! No, damn it! They were so upset. We were gonna stay in what looked like this very well-kept hotel. And the Super 8 there, from what I remember, was well-kept. Well enough. They were freaking out for nothing, but they were like, no, damn it, I hate it. But anyway, cutting to the chase, we made it to Toronto, Canada, where my grandfather, on this one parent's side, lived. And well, here's another reason I'm so passionate about intellectual ageism, I'll call it. Why I don't believe, not just from neuroscience, as there is... Yeah, I do actually believe this. This has come like completely clear to me right now, as far as I can see. It's gonna come out, I'm gonna maybe predict in a few years it's gonna come out. There is no age that your brain stops developing at. There isn't. First, it was initially thought way back in the early 19th century that it was around maybe 14, 15, your brain matures, neurologically matures in terms of your neurodevelopment and, in a sense, I guess, neuroplasticity. Then it went up to 18, recognized in different parts of the world that maybe your brain stops developing around this point, then 20 years old, then going up to adolescence, maybe stopping at like 23, 24. Then apparently I've heard that many are arguing, no, it's now like 27, 28-ish. We're gonna get to a point, I'm pretty sure, in neurology where we're just like, no, fuck it, it doesn't stop. It's very depending on the person. It doesn't stop. There isn't like a set, especially considering the fact of neurodegenerative diseases such as different forms of dementia, multiple sclerosis causing more different lesions that can form in the brain, or maybe localized atrophy to one of the lobes, maybe like posterior cortical atrophy. Yeah, your neurons can die and just regress and degenerate. And neurogenesis, I'm going on a tangent. We moved back here. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about ageism, now I consider myself a fairly intelligent person. I'm stupid in a multitude of regards, clearly have been for years, but in certain regards, well, no, you know what, I'm not gonna say that. It sounded like my narcissistic tendencies talking. My grandfather fought in World War II, who actually escaped the Nazis 3 times, capture from them. Now, I, unlike people in my family, I don't hail this person as a hero by any means. From what I've heard of them, I wish I'd gotten to know them well enough, better while they were alive, but I think they were a fine enough person, as everyone. They were flawed. I'm not a fan of their parenting methods from what I've heard. Borderline stems on abusive, physically in some regard, and emotionally. They were not a hero of war. They were a soldier of war. As I said in my 9th part of Exploring Ottawa, I feel soldiers of the world are led on lies that you're saving your country or it's some sort of honor to die for it. It isn't. Anyway, my grandfather, when we first moved there, was 96 years old. They had survived a long, long time. I did not want anything terrible to happen to my grandfather by any means. But I would actually tell my parents, look, I know of our financial situation. I started listening in more on conversations they'd have. I would talk with them more. They would actually include me for many years on talks about our strained financial issues, and with my research towards economic systems and economic or eco-political ideologies of the world, I started saying to them, look, in all realism here, my grandfather is 96 years old, in relatively good enough health for physical health for his condition, but he is very fragile physically. What are we going to do for housing if something happens to him? And my response, or no, my parents' response, the response I would get would be, hey, no, we're not thinking about that right now. From this one parent who was the child of my grandfather, I don't want to think about that right now. I don't want to think about my father dying. I don't want to think about that. Let's just hope that doesn't happen for a long time. Newsflash, he croaked the next year. Like, spoiler alert, he died the very next year. At 97. That's still, and I don't like doing this to people, but that's still, no, if I'm being truthfully honest here, that is still the biggest I told you so moment I've had in my life. And it fucked us. Obviously, not in any way my grandfather's fault. Of course not. He didn't die by suicide or anything or taking his own life. I would not have blamed him for that. He died of failure, I believe. I believe it was his lungs that were starting to fail him. But anyway, complications with his health, physiological. So, not his fault for dying. He couldn't control that. I still told them. I told them, like, let's think about this. Nothing. And after that I was, well, mad. I was mad. I was very mad. And anyway, I became heavily involved with our financial situation. Knowledge that they were sharing with me. Oh, for my parents' information, if they're watching this, I might have actually played a part. Maybe my relatives can confirm this, but when one of your relatives came to visit to pack up things for the house, because initially, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, they were going to sell it, and we would have to look for a house somewhere else, because two of my relatives were executors to my grandfather's estate and property. Yeah, I spoke behind your back to those relatives and told them, we don't have anywhere to go. We're going to be homeless. Or we may be homeless. We don't have anywhere to go. And you're putting so much strain on my one parent who is paranoid, as I didn't know this at the time, but is very scared. They are petrified of homelessness. The one that has schizoaffective disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and is in incredibly poor physical health. I talked behind your back to them, and you told me, no, don't do that, don't anger them. Put on a performance, your histrionic tendencies, play it up that everything's fine, we'll help out, keep them nice and happy, because they think of our relatives, and after certain things they did to me, no, I absolutely see why. I definitely see more of how their histrionic personality disorder developed. I see why. My family is like not like an actual like financial mafia in terms of like being hard with. Well, they help out with their financial situation, not mine anymore. But yeah, my relatives are very well, performative, very egotistical. They're very well, they're like a social mafia. They outcast those who are weird to them and strange. They pretend to give a shit about things. They do things just because, well, that's what traditionalism, that's what you're supposed to do. Traditionalist mentality, as I've talked about before. Yeah. So I'm not surprised why they developed HPD, or how they developed HPD. Anyway, long story short, after me possibly persuading them in a certain way, you negotiated deals with them to extend some sort of shared mortgage on the house so that we would stay in it, pay parts of it off until me and my sibling went off to post-secondary schooling. Well, obviously that didn't happen for me. That might have been why you were so... Might have been why you were so keen on me not dropping out of school. Just to supposedly keep us financially safe. Anyway, going back to me. At this time, I went into middle school. When we moved back to Canada, I went into middle school, into 8th grade. I, based on my age, probably should have gone into 9th grade, but again, they made the decision that it wouldn't be better for me, and they fucked me again. And it was in 8th grade that I met someone who became my now ex-partner, romantic partner. I fell in love with them. Head over heels. It was not, and no, I'm not gonna, like, it was not just a crush. Like, I fell in love with them. I was, well, I guess you could maybe look at romantic types as some sort of, well, romance as some sort of infatuation. Not an infatuation disorder, in my opinion, but I pedestaled them, in a way. I guess idolized. During, as I talked about in my, well, some videos recently, as far as I'm concerned, I sexually assaulted them. I unconsentfully kissed them on the cheek on our second date. Not forcefully, but I just went, like, and just, no surprise, I didn't ask them, and I did it another time as well. And I know why that, I said in the video, like, I don't know what was wrong with me, what I was thinking at the time, despite my research of things relating to societal and psychological issues relating to misogyny and sexism. Yeah, I know why, because, like, it was the traditionalist mindset of my household. Oh, it's just kids being kids, they're having fun, it's fine. As far as I'm concerned, that was sexual assault. So, that's some sort of major regret of mine. But even so, this person later broke up with me after we started dating. And we stayed friends for a long time. We hung out a lot, we texted a lot. And I was still in love with them. I said I wasn't, but I wasn't lying to myself, I was. And then afterwards, like after I confessed that again, I I fell out of love with them and just actually did, in some sense, just want to be friends. But it got to a point where in high school, I'm starting out, where they had found another partner. We all became friends. I was manipulative to them. I was toxically inappropriate, encroaching. I was invasive in a whole bunch of ways towards their romantic and sexual lives. I was encroaching, and it wasn't because in that regard, romance. I was afraid of losing them just as a friend, I guess. I was afraid of, and as I said when I reflected in my before leaving the cottage videos, I think as well, because I didn't know that I was more sexually promiscuous, or that I was polyamorous. But I am a polyamorous person. Also could have played a fact that I didn't know that I was gynosexual, that I had sexual attraction to femininity. Anyway. I had falling out with another friend who was close to this person when I'm in 8th grade, after a science project, who I later actually went to their house before dropping out of high school, and after that whole incident with them, I actually want to apologize to them and see how they were doing, because I noticed they weren't at school after that. For a while, I had actually been meaning to talk to them, but I noticed they had just disappeared from school. They thought it was very, crazy in a sense. Well, and there was like the amount of insanity for someone to come up just to the house just for that, and actually asked, have I been thinking about that like this whole time? And I said, well, years, yes. I don't know how to take that. Maybe I was being invasive there. If that person's watching, just know that all I was trying to do was, I just wanted to see if you were alright, and I just wanted to apologize. I just wanted to make amends, not be friends at all. I just wanted to... I felt I needed to apologize for being an idiot. I don't agree with with things that they did at all. I think we were both being morons. They were getting overactive, overly agitated. I was being incredibly immature. We both were dodging accountability, I think. But either way, I wanted to apologize for my end. Anyway, I then later on got a job working in retail at a bulk food store. It is still the best. So in terms of my coworkers, the best job that I've ever had. I hated I didn't enjoy doing retail work, but I love not the customer environment. No, not at all. The employee environment, for the most part. And I became friends with, I consider most of them to be my best friends. Some of my best friends. And I got to know one of them who, funnily enough, I'm not going to say their name. They were a YouTuber. They are a YouTuber. They were the first ones who actually spoke to me, and when I came in, they said, welcome to hell. What's funny is I'd gotten to know this person. They shared a lot of interests similar to mine in terms of entertainment and film and things of the sort, storytelling. And what's funny is my friend in America And actually, small world, they were a fan of their... I thought their YouTube channel was like something like mine is right now, very small. Theirs is massive. With it, like, I believe last I checked they have 60,000 subscribers, something around there, in terms of following. And I love their content that they make. When I watch them, the films that they did. And my friend in America, for years, had actually been a fan of theirs. They're actually well known in a certain fandom. They're well known in terms of like fan created content of this certain genre, and what they do. They are actually one of the most famous people in that, or most well known creators in that fandom. And my friend in America had actually showed me a video of theirs years ago, and it sparked my mind once I looked up their channel, and I was like, I found one video by them, and I was like, wait a minute, I have seen that before. My friend in America showed me it, like, when they were showing me a bunch of different things in this fandom, of, like, different creators in it. They showed me one of their videos, and told me about them. And I just so happened to move to the exact same city, the exact same district, get a job at the exact same store, in this exact same subdivision, and get to know them well as a friend. Again, I guess in some semblance, small world. But I got to know a lot of people there. After a while, some of them actually even invited me over to play D&D with them. And I loved doing that with them. I cherish that. Those are good memories of mine. Obviously, there were trying issues, and like, I would speak with... I would talk with, actually, at one point, after a robbery had happened at the store, me and this one friend went out to dinner, and I had paid for it for them, and I told them about my one parent's psychotic episode in 2014, and they told me a lot of my psychological issues make sense now. And they were one of the few people that I had told about it, other than my second ex, that relationship happened when I was in 10th grade. It's the only other romantic relationship I've been in. And I loved them dearly as well, as a person. But we parted ways. I'm much happier with that second relationship than my first one. There were things that I don't like that I did, but, well, I can't do anything about it. I told them about it as well. And we broke up because they had realized... They initially thought that they were sexuality-wise, that they were bisexual. Maybe they were at one point, and I'll make a video on my thoughts on development of sexuality, as some of my thoughts have changed in recent times. More so, but anyway, originally they thought they were bisexual, but came to realize that they might not be attracted to the male gender. And I was devastated, but I told them, obviously, it's not your choice. And even if it was, I'm not going to hold you hostage in a relationship to make you happy, to make me happy. If you're not happy in it, then it'll be a dysfunctional relationship, and there will be no joy. It might be joy on my end, but morally, I don't agree with that. Even at the time, I didn't obviously morally agree with that. But anyway. I worked at that store for, 2 years. We had many people I got to know had long ideological and philosophical and moralistic talks. This is when my communistic beliefs started fully developing more. My research into Communist Manifesto, years before the Communist Manifesto. My absolutely despising capitalism. Things of the sort. And, well, let's also just say, my parents took it upon themselves to put heavy pressure on me for the financial responsibility of the family. I sincerely hope that you're not doing the same. Another PSA for my parents who are watching this. They don't want to accept it. You failed miserably with me. In my opinion, you also failed in many ways with your other child. Let's hope that you at the very least don't put that pressure on them. Considering, because ironically, they actually now, ever since I left the city, work at the same store that I did. Old family connections. Which I'm happy that they are. They weren't enjoying, they got a job at a Metro store, and Metro is a large grocery retailer in Canada. It's a mega corporation. They were not happy with the job. And it wasn't apparently giving them good hours. So I'm glad they actually have been given a chance to actually work there. Anyway. In 2022, I overdosed on caffeine. I've talked about this a bit before. I drank too much coffee, had an actual overdose, felt like I was going to die. My heart was palpitating out of my chest. Severe heart arrhythmia. Severe nausea and perspiration and spasms. I was having spasms, muscular spasms in my body. My parents did nothing but, call telehealth. Yeah, looking back, that's where my depression fully, definitely kicked off. That's when I definitely realized that I don't, it's borderline traits of mine, I don't trust my parents. That is definitely when they broke my trust the most. And then 2 years later, it'd be even more trust broken. So, to reiterate to them, I nearly died that day. It was an overdose. I later went to a general practitioner that week because I started having severe nausea to a point where I could barely eat. They told me, yeah, I overdosed. In all likelihood, to try and help it and combat it, I should have gone to the hospital or the ER to get an IV solution been hooked up to an IV so that they could use the solution to flush it out, to flush any of the caffeine out of my system, out of my bloodstream, try and flush it out to get it away, to stop it from interacting with the medulla oblongata and the brain stem, and also the amygdala and adrenal glands, to stop overproduction of chemicals in the neural cortexes in my brain stem and my amygdala, to try and combat possible overstimulation of the medulla, leading to possibly, could have led to cardiac arrest, could have led to a heart attack, or a malfunction of breathing and death. I should have, but didn't. And I was royally screwed with my digestive system for a whole year. I went down to such a low weight. I was before around maybe 130. I went down to the weight of around 110, and stayed between 109 and 112 for the remainder of that year, barely eating, living off of bread and peanut butter, living off of it. This was during the national lockdown, so school was out. Thank God, because I don't think I would have been able to actually attend school. I wouldn't have cared one way or another at the time. I also, again, hated the schooling system. When I tried talking to my parents about this, it was never a genuine, sorry, because they can't fathom them hurting their child. They can't fathom of them having been horrible people, as most people in this world really can't fathom being horrible people, and they don't self-reflect, and or if they do, they come to the conclusion that, and this was their response every time, was, well, Cam, how are we supposed to know? We've never been through an overdose before. Well, fine, sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry that you're upset with us. I'm sorry. It's over. It's done. In the past. Yeah, that's not an apology. That's not sincerity. No, it isn't. At all. That's not... even one time, my one parent asked, do you want an apology? And I said, I want you to actually think about what you did. For the longest time. Here's one of my morals, logically. The longest time I didn't tell people, even now, I don't tell people to apologize to me. To me, it feels fake. It's performative. It's me telling you to apologize, just, even if I feel I'm deserving of an apology as you were in the wrong, you're just being performative. You're not actually reflecting and looking at what you did and thinking, did I fuck up? Should I have actually apologized? To me, that just sounds like, I'm just apologizing just to get it over with and put it in the past. Just to gratify your feeling of entitlement to an apology. So, I didn't tell them that. Anyway. So, years went on. High school was... I hated it. I wasn't bullied. I wasn't bullied. I felt alienated, but I wasn't actually, for most of it, at least me thinking about it, I wasn't bullied. I despised the system, and I despised the obvious amount of mental disorders, personality disorders, and behavioral disorders that were rampant throughout the student population, as is with most of the world, because I don't know if a certain amount of what is considered disorders now in psychology is really just human nature, or if we really do have the most concrete proof that these are disorders, and it's just the world is a horrible place that is very much in complete distress. And yeah, I know why a lot of conservative people, who are of more conservative ideologies, why they want to feel like, oh, people on the left are complaining so much. It's because you don't want your childhood to be destroyed. I know subconsciously you just want to feel like everything is, like, your childhood was fine and everyone is just complaining. And then there are people on the left who are performative and just want to use it to... Well, they just use it to gain control in some way, some social credit. Maybe all of them do. Because we're social beings. But, yeah, newsflash. Nobody wants... I feel most people in the world, if they could make the world as they were when they were a child, and still have everything be good or like beneficial to everyone else, it would. That isn't. And a lot of people in this world can't fathom how fucked up the world is in terms of political conflicts, just social environments, how abusive and manipulative they can be, how flawed people biologically are, not just because of our social environments, how people can form to have physical and psychological disorders from just something as small, like a small little incident in their childhood, could destroy something, could cause problems. Like, people don't want to fathom, it's not even that, well, maybe they can't fathom it. Maybe they actually can't think about it, but there are others who just don't want to accept it. They can't actually believe that the world is so horrible. And it is a matter of, in this regard, it's, it's a matter of, in some regards, willful ignorance, I'd say. In some regards, some people choosing not to accept it. And here's something that my parents would often do, is they preach what's in psychology known as toxic positivity. The whole just think positive mindset. No. Wrong. You can't ignore terrible issues. It will lead to more issues. Holy fuck. People can't just... People are so desperate to think that things are working fine, that they're safe, that they're secure. I'm gonna have another video on actually how I think, well, some conclusions I've come to where I'll talk about that differently. This is going on for 2 hours. Probably gonna have to cut this up. My teenhood, I have been, it's apparent to me now, an existential crisis and a morality crisis have been plaguing me for a long time. Later on, after the chronic digestive issues subsided, thankfully. Which, now that I look back, could have very well been an eating disorder. But not in the way that people seem to think. An eating disorder, really, in gastroenterology, could just refer to problems with eating. necessarily something such as bulimia or anorexia, or food denial, things of the sort, or binge eating. I developed what is now become apparent is pseudo-neurological problems. It is, attributed to psychosomatic illness. I have somatic symptom disorder, and as far as I'm concerned, somatoform dissociation, which is a dissociative state of mind, accompanied with pseudo-neurological problems. And clinical depression, or major depressive disorder, major depression. I suffer from that. I went to see a pediatric neurologist who was the best doctor I've ever had. Dr. C. I got into a lot of talks with them when I saw them, or when I would have video conferences with them on my condition, and also morality, philosophy, mainly on ontology, meanings of life. They recommended to me, and I've looked up. They recommended to me a book called Man's Search for Meaning when I was seeing them, and I looked into it. I haven't read it yet. I haven't. I think I've no. Well, back when I was seeing them, I believe I looked at the first bit of the book, but I still need to read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, who was a Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, who was a Jewish neurologist and psychiatrist who was imprisoned. I don't believe it was Auschwitz. He was imprisoned in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. And his entire family was put into the gas chambers and burned to death. But he survived, and he wanted to find what he thought would be. He questioned what the meaning of life was. He recommended to me, and I've looked into Viktor Frankl himself in terms of his actual psychological teachings and neurological diagnoses of patients and things of the sort, but also his influence of what's called logos therapy, which is finding, in terms of medical practice, finding what the patient enjoys doing, which what gives them joy in their hobbies, what they do, which my pediatric neurologist, in terms of their values and philosophies, they absolutely did follow that, which I agree with to an extent, obviously, logically. You know what, I gotta stop saying. I'm gonna have to try again with that for another video. I'll explain more of that in a second. I haven't read Man's Search for Meaning yet, but I've been meaning to at some point. In fact, actually, my neurologist gave a very great, good, incredible conference on concussions to the Scarborough, in Toronto, the Scarborough Health Network. He gave a presentation for I don't remember what the conference was. I saw another video one other doctor had done. I think they were, was it nephrology or was it nepatology, it might have been, but I saw one that they gave, and I also read an article that was written about them, how they actually spoke to the Catholic Church Union of Toronto years ago in relation to how they thought discussing moral decisions based on death and legalized euthanasia, medically assisted suicide in patients, and how the church could actually help in aiding medical science, I believe it was. Well, in how they could have a positive influence and a different way to look at it. I'll actually, yeah, you know what? I'll link I'll link the the video, that presentation that they gave, um, and maybe I'll link the article description of this video. Yeah. Anyway, their prognosis was that I was suffering from psychosomatic illness. I wrote a letter to them before I left the city, thanking them for what they had done for me. I asked if maybe before, well, the week that I was in Toronto sleeping on the streets, if when I was gathering necessities and saying goodbye to people, if they maybe wanted to meet up and just talk as friends, just before I left, but that didn't end up happening. And I said, if they're uncomfortable with that, then obviously I understand. But they referred me to the Shonaker Clinic of Scarborough Health Network, which mainly deals with psychiatry. And they also referred me to that was a pain. They referred me to a psychologist who's also been the second best doctor I've ever had, who I still talk with over the phone, just as, well, conversations, just as chats. I'm very thankful for that. Long story short, as if you want, you can go watch some other videos of mine that discuss this in depth a bit more, while being more, I guess, secretive to certain people. Researching further into psychology and neurology and things of the sort, I grew to realize the issues that my parents very much have. One of them having histrionic personality disorder, being overly obsessed with how their image is seen by other people's perception of them, possibly egotistical personality disorder, having heavy, heightened sense of self-importance, their ego being very high, inserting their sense of self unnecessarily into things, with no clear reasoning for it. And what I now know is definitely schizoaffective disorder. That a medication that you take called, for years actually, they had lied to me about this. For years, I didn't know that, because they take a pill, as mentioned before, clonazepam, Seroquel. I distinctly remember for many years you telling me, oh, it was just a sleeping pill, it was a sleeping aid, it's made them drowsy. That isn't a sleeping aid. That's an antipsychotic medication. It's far more potent than the one I was taking, which is an antiemetic, for the chronic nausea I had for a year, chlorpromazine, which also can function as an antipsychotic. As I've said before, that's not what I was taking it for. I was using it for its antiemetic properties. But clonazepam is a heavy antipsychotic. It is sedative, very sedative. One of its many side effects is heavy drowsiness and lethargy. So, I definitely know why you put on that. If it's helping, I hope you're staying on that. They were getting a bit more paranoid when I was, the last few months of me living there. so I know that's, oh, well, that wasn't a good sign. My other parent is more narcissistic. They're dismissive. Possibly internally depressed. My other parent is also they're both, in my opinion, internally depressed. Well, one less so than the other in terms of how they express it, or how open they are about it, and self-aware, accepting of it. But either way, my sibling, they may have ADHD. If you're watching this, in the suicidal video I made, I said they were the person that I was wrong about when I was talking about, like, problems to my friend in America who I made my family. I had problems with all three of my family members for many months, suicidality. But my sibling, not anymore in that regard. You have more leaning narcissistic tendencies, but that's not really a problem. You're not, well, I think you should get tested for ADHD. I would say that yes, you definitely have ADHD. You're very distractible, fidgety, you're more, well, you are more, in a sense, can be sporadic with things. So can I, but in terms of, again, you could also be very irritable, and also, as I would consider, inconsiderate to people you sometimes brush, or would brush me aside. But anyway, I love you. I love my sibling. I'm thankful that they still even talk to me. But anyway, cutting to the chase, the rest of the things. My life has been. This is gonna sound very oh, this is gonna be very self-righteous and pitiful, but I think it's a true fact, and I'm not trying to garner sympathy with this, like, unfairly or like manipulatively, but I think it is a true enough statement to say that yeah, my life has been shit. Has been very shitty up to this point. There have been good moments, but there have been many tragedies that have befallen me and the people around me. Some by their hands and what other people have done to them, and others by my own hand, which I deeply regret that. And then, now I'm on this traveling trek up to Iqaluit, Nunavut. Still as of right now. Because human nature no longer makes sense. Never did, really, in the first place. We are absurd in many regards by our own existence, but my logic doesn't make sense anymore. So yeah, that was my life story. Now on to the last bit of this video, as it's getting long. It's now 2023. I survived another year. Toronto. Slept on the streets. I slept on the streets of Toronto for a week. Slept at certain people's houses for a bit while I was staying in Toronto. Some days. Did an interview with my dear friend Sean Ferguson, who I need to call. Meaning to call for a while. I tried a few weeks ago, but I didn't get an answer. Slept in the countryside. Lived in a small village for the whole summer of 2022. I've worked retail. I've worked in a bakery for my co-op class of 12th grade. I did volunteer work before that, both of those. Worked as a landscaper for 2 weeks over the last summer. Worked a restaurant job in a neighboring village to Crow's Landing, called McCracken's Landing. Was betrayed by my relatives, who pretended to actually respect my intelligence and my critical thought process, my plans, leaving me to my own devices, then pulled the rug out from under me. I'll talk about that in a different one, somewhat. Lost the friendship with that YouTuber friend of mine. And hightailed it up here to Ottawa with someone I know in a van with my side-by-side, which I will be using on the roads here in Ottawa. I have to attach something to it, maybe paint a different color. But I will be. Drove around the countryside on a motorized, left Toronto on a motorized bike. Traveled along roads with no license. Bought a golf cart and drove it in between towns and villages in the middle of nowhere, breaking down at points in the dead of night, having to call tow trucks, being stuck in just vacant darkness as far as the eye could see, getting chased by something that I don't know what it was or if I was hallucinating. Busting my ass at back-breaking job positions. Still doing so. Exploring this city, exploring Ottawa, talking about different things. And some days gaining some amount of hope back, and other days it being shattered to trillions of pieces. Made a lot of mistakes in my life. As is everyone. Most people on this planet have made so many mistakes. So, I have a different job now. I had a job here as well. Restaurant job. quit it because things were being improperly cooked, and the management were a bunch of idiots. Oh, and for a person who texted me about so stupid, in relation to me being betrayed over the summer in terms of wanting to drive up here in my side-by-side, Carlene, they texted me saying, do you think maybe the restaurant owners, because they saw the video I posted last, maybe the restaurant owners would have been very upset at you, similar to how you were upset that somebody reported you to the police about wanting to drive up here. First off, you didn't listen to that video at all clearly. I said in that video I did not want to report them to the public health ministry. Oh, and spoiler alert, I didn't report them to the public health ministry, and I'm not going to. I went through with my plan. I went through with what I was going to, a plan that I had thought up to try and inform the public about it. It failed miserably. It was very elaborate. I'm not going to talk about it here, but yeah, it failed. It completely failed. And I'm still not going to report it because I need to talk about this in a different video as well. People of a libertarian philosophy, or people are more libertarian, and anarchists, we really need to start thinking about what is too much policing. Well, actually, anyone who follows an anarchist philosophy, which I'll talk about that later. Well, in my opinion, you actually shouldn't be calling the police for anything if you believe in no governmental policing system. So, why did I decide to make this new introduction, I guess? I already said before, I felt it was needed. I felt it would have been healthy for me. And I guess it's a bit of a different start. It's a more proper introduction, I guess, to me. And a new start for the new year, I guess. Now, obviously, I'm not deleting any of the past videos I made. I'm keeping them up for me to reflect on, for people to watch if they find some merit in it. I recorded a whole bunch of skits. Most of them I hate. The most recent one I made about me wanting to be a pornographer, I hate how it turned out. I'm glad I made it still, but once again, I'm not happy with it. I think I'm overacting at points in it. So, as far as well, there's some things that I need to change. Now going forward that I'm going to try to change. And I've come to another reason I'm making this video is because I've come to new conclusions about what I'm going to be doing on the rest of my trek upward to Nunavut. Firstly, I've talked about in previous videos of my more leaning histrionic tendencies. I want to break those. I spoke about in my third part of Exploring Ottawa how I used to record audio diaries. How I deleted a bunch of them, and I was actually happy with myself for doing that. Letting them go. I deleted all of them now. This isn't a recent thing. I've done it over the period of time that I've been up here. But I deleted all of them. I let them go. But in further trying to change an aspect of my personality, actually change my personality and persona, how I express my cognitive thoughts and behaviors to other people are just projected out into the world, as is debated of what personality is in that regard. In personality psychology, I'm going to try, and as I tried to do with this video, I didn't completely do it, but I think it's turned out better than all my videos before with it, in terms of me just talking about my thoughts and feelings. I'm going to try and be more precise with what I'm talking about. Now, not more confident in what I'm talking about. More precise. More, not really, I guess, maybe directness, but more, not being as sporadic with my, when I'm talking about a specific topic, what I'm bringing up, trying not to be. So that's one thing. So you can think of these, I guess, as my New Year's resolution. What I'm going to talk about now is my New Year's resolutions, even though I don't personally do New Year's resolutions. They're just resolutions, I guess, in general, or things I need to work on. In an attempt, I'm going to attempt to break more of my histrionic tendencies and try and be more precise with what I'm talking about. Because I know why I'm so sporadic with things, because I have seen how not being clear with what you're trying to get across can affect other people. And I didn't want anyone to misinterpret what I was saying, because I knew how it could hurt someone else. If I cared about other people. So that's one thing I'll be doing. 2, I have decided that in relation to my parents, well, actually this is directly to my parents and to most of my extended relatives. There are some, like maybe 2 or 3, that if you want to talk to me, you can. But as for most of my extended relatives and my parents, I believe still logically that people can change personality-wise, how they present themselves, behaviorally, even in some regards, your mentality. You can get treatment for things and actually try to better yourself. But in terms of you guys, I'm cutting you off. Until my travels for what I'm trying to achieve with this are done, I'm not talking to you anymore. You can message me all you want. You can try and call me all you want. I'm leaving you all to your own devices to self-reflect and get yourselves help. I tried to negotiate things with you two whilst living in that house in Toronto for years. So that we could all just try and stay together, and so that we could all change, or so that you could change and realize what you were doing, and me working on things for myself as well included. Well, that didn't happen. You weren't willing to just, well, I guess we all have our own self-interest in that regard. You weren't willing to compromise yours. I wasn't willing to compromise mine. So at the very least, we can't function together in one household. We can't. Actually, I somewhat retract that. I compromised mine for many years. Enough. You didn't give an inch. So, I wish my parents, I wish you well. I hope you can change. I hope people in this world can actually change. Or I, at the very least, hope some benefit can come out of humanity. But you'll have to do it without me. The only time I will respond to a text of yours going forward, or a phone call, or if you take me off of the data plan, which I wish you would, because I don't think I deserve to be on it. You're paying for it, my cellular bills. Thank you, fine, but I even said when leaving, please take me off of it if it gets too expensive, or even just take me off of it. I can use Wi-Fi. I can look for Wi-Fi hotspots to try and use my device and make calls. So, just take me off of it. That would be lovely. But I know you're not going to listen to that. Save on your... Well, maybe it won't save on your financial bills in terms of phone payments. Well, anyway, I wish you would. And same goes for my extended relatives. You're very ignorant people. You're very performative. You're very scared of being socially isolated. You're very histrionic. One of you has A-type personality disorder. You kiss up to each other so often. You just talk just to sound smart, to sound like you matter, to sound... so many people in this world, even some of my own friends, it's talk to gratify your own egos. It's just not actually believing it does, or if if you do believe in some of what you say, you don't show it, or you don't really practice it very well. I don't think I did for many years either. Maybe I didn't. So often, it's just talk for the sake of talking. I hate it. I don't talk. This is something actually I've come to realize. I'm a lot more stoic than I actually give myself credit. I'm a lot more stoic than I think. I practice stoicism a lot more than I really do realize. I said in my before leaving the college videos when discussing my philosophies and ideologies, I believed in relative stoicism. But stoicism really isn't, the philosophy itself is not just like it really isn't just being passive towards like extreme events. Also, in some relation, the amount of just staying calm or just observing things. I do that far more than I actually give myself credit for. I said before, at least if I can recall correctly, when I'm not doing this, unless I feel like I have something to say, I don't talk. I don't need to hear my own fucking voice. I actually, when I go back and rewatch these videos to see, in an attempt to maybe see if I was misremembering something or made a mistake, was incorrect about something or what I said in it, I don't like it. I don't like hearing myself talk at all. I've said this before. It never comes out the way I want it to. I don't need to. I can just sit back and be that silent person in the corner. I don't need to be flapping my mouth constantly like some of you have to. Even close friends of mine. And I don't mean this as like genuinely like, I love you. I genuinely love you. But I'm gonna be honest here. I guess this relates to my morality crisis too, was a part of you guys. Some of you really do sometimes just seem to talk for the hell of it. Like about morality, about philosophy, ideology. It doesn't matter what really. Psychology, just human existence, nature, behavior. Arts, the arts, it doesn't matter. Like some of you, yap, 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 yap. So, off that tangent, I just broke what I said I wanted to try and do. Be more precise. My parents, I wish you well. You're no longer a part of my life. My sibling, though, and my friends are a part of my life. I will keep in contact with you all, my friends, and my sibling. I love you dearly. As friends, I love those relationships and those friendships. And my sibling, I love you as well. My relationship with you, I wish it was stronger than what it is. But, well, well, I don't know. My parents and my relatives, we're done. Even if you change, you gotta change for yourself and the people in your life, in your immediate life now, like that are around you. This is not so much directed at my relatives, my parents. Even if I believe, like, to logically believe in redemption, believe in what I'd call fundamental redemptionality, being able to change, even if you did change, I may forgive you if I was to find out about your attempts at changing your presentation of personality and your behavior and things of the sort, and acceptance of your problems, your vast array of psychological problems. I need to not speak with you people for the rest of my travels. Unless there was some sort of major emergency, then maybe I would call or text. But, well, until that point, or until whatever comes of my life in the coming weeks, months, years, decades with this journey, goodbye for now to you people. I don't know. Well, and if if after every upload or not hearing from other people about how I'm doing, if I don't live to see you in person again, if I die somewhere along this journey, which is very possible, absolutely possible. There are so many moments where I could have died, like, just been dead the last 7 months. And before that, but, well, any point of your life you can be dead. But, well, goodbye. I, again, wish you well, and I hope that you recover from the damage that has been done to your lives. But no more with me then. 3. In this coming year, I need to stop, or I've decided that I need to stop and really be aware of how much I self-actualize. I've talked about a bit about self-actualization before. It's when your ego, your sense of self, your egotistical traits and tendencies, your characteristics of your personality is reaffirmed. It's either validated or it's just it's reaffirmed. It's reiterated to you either through yourself or other people or just a situation that happens to you. I need to stop self-actualizing so much, because many people in this world obviously just seek out self-actualization and don't actually bother to critically think or examine, like, should their identity and sense of self be reaffirmed in this moment? Is that good? Is it good that you have that as a part of your self and that it was reaffirmed? Many people don't bother to think about that. But and this really came about because looking back at my videos, I've gotten to a point where I'm questioning, who the hell am I talking to? Like right now, camera's recording. I'm sitting in not an empty room, but just a room alone. There's people in this place that I'm staying at, but they're not here right now. It often just feels like I'm screaming into a void with these videos. Maybe that's what it's felt. Maybe that's what I have been doing for the entirety of this channel. And this channel, I was originally went under another title called Damn Duh, the Russian duh for word for yes. And I tried uploading to it before, years ago. Didn't work. And under this one, A Damn Slice of Cake, I tried doing things after I had uploaded my Minecraft videos and deleted all of them, re-uploaded my Minecraft videos, I believe, and started doing it from where it is now. So and it's not just in my video, I especially want to stop. I absolutely need to, something that I've really been practicing recently is not self-actualizing whilst watching YouTube videos or researching or reading up on different things relating to whatever I'm researching. Culture, geography, politics, history, psychology, sexology, physiology in general, whatever else. I need to stop self-actualizing. Like talking. Oh, yeah. I'll talk about it in a different video. I haven't mentioned really much about the whole semi-vow of silence I took whilst up the cottage for a month. But I did learn a lot from that. Oh yeah, by the way, in that video I said I might be getting a dog when I was up there. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. I never really addressed that. So, talk about that in a different video. I typed in the description about it, but I need to stop self-actualizing so much. Now, that doesn't mean that if somebody gives me advice, I'm going to take it. No, I'm still going to critically think about it. And if I think it's shit advice, I'm not going to take it. Just because I don't know something does not make you right or certain of what you're saying. Well, you may be certain, but it's, well, unfounded certainty. That's something a lot of people in this world need to learn. Just because one person's wrong does not make you right. In fact, actually, just because you're right doesn't make them wrong. At least in every regard. So no. Not self-actualizing doesn't mean I'm going to stop critically thinking. I'm just going to... So I'm going to... Okay, let me be more specific. I'm going to stop vocally, like, self-actualizing to myself. And with what I'm observing, because you don't have to vocalize to self-actualize. I'm just gonna really just observe it, I guess. Four. Starting now. There's something else that's gonna be happening with my travels and my, well, hobbies, I guess. Well, not really what I do. It's not really going to be a career of mine that I'm taking on whilst traveling. But, I'll talk more about this, I guess, in a different video. I've decided to become a medic. Oh, not a licensed medic. A medical worker. I'm going to purchase a nursing essentials kit. Stethoscope, their joint hammers and their joint mallets. There's the Queen Square, and then there's another one I need to look up. Blood pressure reader, some scissors for tourniquets, and I think it also comes with gauze in some regard. I have antiseptic. I'm going to buy some more of that. I'm going to buy over-the-counter pain medications, or just different antiseptics, things of the sort. Now, probably asking, why am I doing that? Going on my travels, I'm gonna aid people who need medical assistance in what ways I can. Now, I'm not gonna... taking on a form of Hippocratic oath for my duties, I will admit what I don't know and ask any colleagues or any people who are other people who are in the medical or psychiatric fields that are more knowledgeable than me in this regard what is going on here, or seek out help in other fields. I take that oath. even though I'm an anti-prominent Claritin, I still... Okay, why am I doing that? Back to that question. Well, I've been speaking, even when I was in Toronto, I spoke with my psychologist about this. We talked a lot about my love for researching neuroscience and physiology in that regard, and psychology. And they would always say, even when I decided to drop out of high school, well, whenever you decide, hopefully one day, to pick up your post-secondary education or high school education again, maybe you could put something into use to going into medical school. Or getting a PhD of some kind. Maybe in psychoanalysis or neuropsychoanalysis or neuropsychology. I'm not doing that as of right now. Logically, my careers still are to become a video game writer, a pornographer, and a stock photographer. Those were what I, for the longest time, desired to do. But, now they're on hold. But, you were right in some regard. I'm very confused morally about things, and even my pediatric neurologist, Dr. C, he said, I remember they said at points, they felt, if you can't help others, then, no. If you can't help yourself, then help others. Well, if I'm psychoanalyzing my neurologist, and if they're watching this, I would have to ask, could you not help yourself? I don't know what their answer would be. They even told me that they didn't know if, well, obviously, they couldn't predict if being a neurologist was going to work out for them. They even told me at one point, I didn't know if this was going to work. I just decided to, and that's how it's been going. So, I'm going to put my knowledge of neurology, psychology, and sexology, and the knowledge I have of other physiological fields, or fields of cardiology, osteology, myology, neuropsychology, obviously, you're part of that, gastroenterology, from what I can of andrology, or gynecology in some regard, or nephrology. I'm going to put it to some use other than my own research and talking about it here. I do still plan to do videos talking about psychology and neurology, neurological disorders and diseases, psychological disorders, and another reason I'm doing this is because Canada right now is in the middle of a healthcare crisis. Not just because they have lack of funding, which they absolutely do in terms of medical and psychiatric research. Not just because they don't the CEOs of different hospital districts are corrupt and don't actually redistribute the wealth evenly to a lot of the workers within the healthcare system, or what is funding is only just going into like the paychecks of higher recognized specialties, and things of the sort. But because not just Canada, the world is running out of doctors. And I have a theory for this. I actually do blame hedonism for this. I think the hedonistic philosophy is getting really rampant in the world. And I actually feel that a lot of it is causing, and maybe to a lesser extent, egoism. Hedonism is causing like a lack of people wanting to go into healthcare, solely living for themselves. I don't know whether that's good or not. But it's definitely causing the downward slope of people actually going into the medical field. I feel that people obviously need to be happy and choose a career that they want, logically. And if that's not with healthcare, obviously people should not just go into it because they feel they need to. If it results in less workers, well, that's unfortunately the tides of humanity. But I do think, well, I logically hate the philosophy of hedonism, and I feel that its rapid spread throughout the world has caused a lot of people to not want to go into healthcare. So, there's a healthcare crisis. Here in Ottawa, people cannot get in to see a general practitioner. There are so many doctors that have had a set number of patients. They've been fully booked up. You can't get it. Took me so long to get in to see the doctor I'm seeing now. I finally got to see one, and I was supposed to go for a physical with them a few days ago. I had to miss it because I'm working at the new restaurant job, a Taiwanese Chinese fusion restaurant, and it's going well so far in terms of, well, the environment and the people are, on my impression so far, so much more accepting, empathic, and understanding than my managers at the other restaurant. They actually treat me like, well, we talk things out. They're very understanding if there's a concern of mine that I brought up to them. And they don't, like the restaurant job in McCracken's Landing, another one of my favorite jobs that I've had. Don't like the job itself, just for what I'm interested in, but greatly loved the staff. One of the people there I consider my best friends, as I've talked about. They don't treat me like I'm just an employee. Even my former manager, if you heard in the video that I took covertly, just said, well, of course, you're just my employee. If I think you're doing bad, I'll send you home. I'll just say, I can find someone else. That's fine. Fuck you. And you didn't listen to my concerns at all. Like, with what I was talking about before. Money hungry asshole. So, but I have no medical license. And I don't care. Here's a logical conclusion that I have come to after reflecting for a long while. I mentioned this in my last before leaving the COD video when I took that clip of Trudy, my golf cart, at the end of the video, about how I don't know if I logically agree with licensing for vehicles anymore, like for just driving on roads, because I do think that can get to overbearing policing. I don't believe in licensing or certification for anything anymore. I don't. Too much policing that cannot be enforced. Especially with roads, people with licenses don't follow the laws of the roads. Many of the laws are problematic in and of themselves in terms of the speeding laws and regulation of traffic. But they don't follow them. And the police don't follow them themselves. There are countries in the world where there are very few traffic laws. Afghanistan and Pakistan are notable, where people learn to function in maneuver vehicles. And it's worked in many regards in a more anarchistic way, safely, but with no actually regulated system, except for just, well, basically in Afghanistan, governmentally, with the policing system there, and Pakistan too, Tajikistan as well has similar laws in terms of traffic policing. The only real law is just don't speed. Don't be driving around like a maniac, or the police will stop you if you're causing mass disrupt. Afghanistan does not have. There is no actual in Pakistan and Afghanistan, like societally, there is not even like there is no set lane to drive on. There are cars that come going right towards each other, and then they just stop, decide who's going around. Pedestrians walking in and out. It's common in India as well and Bangladesh, walking in and out of traffic. Um, and as well as in Iran, uh, there are more heavily enforced traffic laws in Iran. But in terms of, there isn't many pedestrian traffic laws in terms of crossing in the roads, where like cars they will swerve out of the way for you, but they may not slow down. It's like culturally, it's often just learned in Iranian society most often that you learn to maneuver like with the traffic, uh, make like mad dashes across the road, walk fast, keep an eye out for the cars. So there are drivers who, based on what is learned in the culture, will not stop. And in Tajikistan, it's somewhat similar. Where they do have designated lanes, I believe, legally in Tajikistan, nationally, like what side of the roads you should be driving on, and the police may stop you for that. But there isn't, I don't believe, like majorly regulated speed for the cars. I do think there's traffic lights, like stopping lights, where to indicate like to stop at, but it's not. There aren't as many, like there's not really a whole lot of enforced speed limit in terms of driving vehicles. Again, though, police will stop you if you're chaotically driving around the roads. But it has been shown to work. Yes, there are accidents that happen, but people learn to function with it. And for this reason as well, I don't believe in licensing. I don't. And same goes for medicine. You know why? Because it's very clear as well that and I knew this before, but been very much reiterated to me. Doctors they're very knowledgeable and intelligent doctors. I do believe that there are doctors who have great knowledge as to how to help a patient. But once like diagnostic tests or traditional like once further analysis fails, and having been in the healthcare system and seen others in my life and hearing other people's experiences, how doctors cannot figure out what is going on physiologically or even sometimes psychologically with them, of able to pinpoint, well, maybe better, not as much in psychology, but able to pinpoint a clear diagnosis. They're just as naive as you. They're just as naive and uncertain as you are. Like say, like if a test comes back nominal, it comes back normal, it didn't show anything well, it's not. It's not technically. We say in the medical world, we say that a test came back normal in terms of physiology. Well, that doesn't mean that it is actually normal. It's just it didn't detect any abnormalities. It couldn't see what was wrong. There is something wrong. You just couldn't see it. Even if it's not like physiological damage, say like in the case of psychosomatic illness, there's still something wrong. You can't see it though. That can be assessed through psychological evaluation. It's just you become ignorant yourself. Very. The doctors as well. And another reason of not licensing, in my opinion, for medical practice is because, yeah, there are doctors that have proven, like, I've seen horrible physicians. They've proven that they don't, in my opinion, deserve a medical license. And they haven't. They've been able to sneak their way through the system and get into the healthcare facilities and disrupt their patients' lives. Let's point to Christopher Dunch of Plano, Baylor Plano, Texas, USA. Maimed 30. He was a neurosurgeon. Maimed 30 of his patients. Killed 3 of them. He caused cerebral death to one of them, and killed a few others. His negligence, and he had narcissistic personality disorder. He had sociopathy, lack of empathy. He had a God complex. Great, in my opinion, series that was done was one of my favorite shows. Dr. Death, biopic based off of the accounts of the case of Christopher Dunch. Highly recommend it. It's a very good, actually, in my opinion, good biopic that doesn't over sensationalizes things and actually portrays everyone as a flawed individual. Or Harold Shipman, serial murderer who was a physician in England. He was a rural medicine practitioner, I believe, who did house calls for patients. I don't remember if he spiked their medication or if he purposely prescribed very at high doses very dangerous medication for the patients that were receiving care from him, but he ended up murdering a lot, I think like 200 patients. Joseph, I don't remember his last name, the Angel of Death in World War II for the Nazi party, worked at Auschwitz. He was a neuro and vascular surgeon, did horrifying operations, stuck pins and needles and tore chunks out of patients' cerebrums and brains, just the whole brain structure. Destroyed their cognition, destroyed their physiological process. Yeah, horrible. There was a doctor, I think the initials were J.O. in the United States, who, well, they were a gynecologist, and I think they were accused and found guilty of, well, there was evidence of them tampering, like causing severe, because of their negligence, causing severe damage to patients' ovaries. And it caused, well, severe, I think it was internal bleeding problems. But there are more examples than this, but what are we at now? 3 hours? Wow. This is gonna have to get chopped up. Yeah, I am against licensing. It doesn't help. It does not, in my eyes, it doesn't actually, it's like the educational system is based on grading. It doesn't prove you know anything. You can manipulate your way through it. You can study up enough or cheat your way through just to prove that you know it, to get it right for the test, to seem as though you understand the concept well, and then go off into the world and do fuck all. Fuck it all up, either maliciously or just out of pure ignorance. And having an overactive ego, or having heavy narcissism, or maybe independence traits, or an intellectual complex or a superiority complex, yada 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 yada. I don't believe it helps. So I'm going to become a traveling medic. Whilst in the city here, I'm not gonna, well, actually, I'm not gonna say what I need to figure it out a bit more. I may, at points, just go out to certain areas where I'm going to mainly be trying to help, if I can, anyone but the impoverished or people facing homelessness. I may go out to areas just to see where, in areas where the homeless population is more dense in the city, if someone needs assistance. If they don't want assistance, obviously it's their choice, and I won't help them unless, say, they were unconscious or something. But if they're conscious and saying no, I don't want assistance, I won't help them. If I can't help them in any major way, but they need some sort of aid, I would call for an ambulance. I would try and call for some sort of medical assistance other than myself. Now, what I would do is, or when I'm just going out to film, say more exploring Ottawa videos, when I'm just so happen to be down, when I have time off from the job that I'm working at right now, or I take time off from it because I need to make an income. come as well for getting on the road into Quebec during the spring or summer months when those come around. I am going to when I find time, I'm not gonna, when I'm going out to film those videos, that's not gonna be me actively seeking out, like, seeing if there are people who need help. If they do, stop what I'm doing and try and help in what way I can. I will mainly be specializing in neurology, psychology, and sexology. Now, obviously, here's something that I don't know. For as much as I feel knowledgeable in neurology, I obviously can't treat neurological disorder. I can't treat any neurological disorders or degenerative diseases, or damage to the nervous system in any way that requires more invasive, like, procedures, needle injections, anything of the sort. And I'm not as knowledgeable to treatments specifically with them, but I am confident enough to say that I can actually diagnose certain potential lesions within the brain structure or the brain stem or spinal cord, or if there's some sort of disrupt happening to the neuronuclei within whatever region of the brain or the peripheral nervous system, or to the parasympathetic nervous system or the sympathetic nervous system or the autonomic nervous system. Just examining them, seeing if there is, or just if there's disrupt in any way to what possible cortex of the brain it could be, well, localized to, if it is, what the symptoms could, like, what the symptoms are, so that the patient knows, and just what I recommend that they should do. If I recommend that they absolutely should go to a hospital, or try desperately, maybe I could try and help them see about getting into a general practitioner. I have no weight in that regard. All I can do is try and make calls. That's it. I don't know what else I could do, but maybe I could try and do something in that regard. And for psychology, though, I absolutely think I could be a very big help, even if I can't manage their symptoms well enough. Talk therapy. I can actually try and provide some amount of psychological counseling. Now, my knowledge of psychology is mainly in the realms of personality and personality disorders. Psychology, the study of psychology, can be split up into 3 separate categories mainly: mentality, personality, and behavior, with the social elements all combining as well. But I'm best with personality, second best would definitely be with behavior, and then third best mentality. But I still think I'm vastly knowledgeable in all of them. I can try and be of assistance in treating egotistical personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, histrionic, like borderline personality disorder, if I can maybe help, dependent, independent, catatonic, formerly known as catatonia personality or catatonic personality disorder, or catatonia, see if there is, emotional avoidance, otherwise known as alexithymia, schizoid personality disorder, schizotypical, and for behavior, maybe dismissive behavioral disorder, domineering behavioral disorder, aggressive behavioral disorder, manic aggression, sociopathy and / psychopathy and personality, severe depression, persistent depression of any kind, atypical depression, dissociative disorders such as, well, generalized dissociation, derealization, depersonalization, absorption, PTSD in some regard with post-traumatic stress, any psychotic disorders, maybe potentially as well as schizophrenia. I can't prescribe any, well, I'm not the best when it comes to, in terms of diagnosis, I think I can. In terms of prescriptions for, like, in psychopharmacology or neuropharmacology or neuropsychopharmacology, I am not the best overall with neurochemical science in terms of the drugs that could assist in it. I do know, well, in terms of depression, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like sertraline. I have to look up if Prozac is an anxiety medication or if it could be selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. But anyway, I could try and make a recommendation if I look up what could potentially help. Asking if they go to a licensed practitioner and are able to obtain a prescription, for them to ask about this, give them suggestions in terms of sexology relating to sexual fetishes or their sex lives, or also relating to sexually transmitted diseases or infections, helping people discover their sexualities. I feel in terms of psychosexology, I can try and maybe help people who are unsatisfied with their, well, sexual urges and desires, or potentially trying to aid someone who's having encroaching sexual fetishes or desires, such as pedophilia or infetophilia or hebephilia. Try and aid people in just problematic fetishes that could be, or if they're over fetishizing something or over sexualizing something to where it's causing a problem for people around them and themselves to an encroaching extent, maybe try and help them get that to more of a stable range. And also in terms of diagnosing, trying to diagnose sexually transmitted diseases, infections of the genitalia, chlamydia, gonorrhea, things of the sort, genital warts, herpes, if a herpes flare-up could be happening in the genital region, potential of yeast infections with burning pus emitting from the vaginal tube, or I need to look up more about trichinomes. I forget the long term of the name, term for the disease or the infection. But I'm gonna try, because I feel it's needed, and I want to. And if maybe some people are willing to, and I'm not going to do this covertly, like sneakily within my pocket. If they want to keep their identities a secret, I would put my phone recording in my pocket. But I would ask them maybe just for psychoanalytic research if they'd be willing to just talk about their feelings, just as a study, and then upload it to my channel. Just psychoanalysis. Okay. So camera crashed again. This is getting very long. Yeah, I'll be doing that going forward as far as I'm concerned right now. For the rest of my travels. I'll help in what ways I can. So, becoming a medic, self-employed medic, I'm not doing it for payment. I'm just doing it. And 4, make this one quick. If I get pulled over by the police, like for driving my side-by-side, or if people question me, like if I get arrested while practicing medicine with people just on the streets, trying to treat them or trying to help them and give them recommendation or diagnosis of some kind or a prognosis, then well, fuck it. And also, if police stop me, I'm not gonna lie to police. I'm not gonna lie to the police. I talked about how when I got pulled over in the countryside for driving my side-by-side into work, the encroaching policeman that was going on, but how I played dumb a bit, which is sadly, well, that's a form of manipulation. I'm just gonna flat out say, if I get pulled over by the police on my side-by-side here or anywhere else, yep, I don't agree with the law. I don't have a license, not certified. You can arrest me if you want. Fuck it. Or fine me. I'm already gonna use my side-by-side for a purpose up here to help the community, hopefully, whilst taking it to places I need to go. But if police stop me, yeah, fuck it. I got nothing left to lose. So. There are other things I'll talk about in other videos. Hope you enjoyed this. year. New bullshit.
That is fucking adorable. Oh, no! What happened? Who killed him?